live now to Ed Hopkins from MEMA. He joins us to tell us what the latest situation is and how things are going so far. Ed, can you hear me?
Mindy, yes, I can. Go ahead.
So what is the situation now? How are things going so far this evening?
We believe they're going fairly smoothly. Of course, if you look behind me, it does look like somewhat of organized chaos, but there is a method to our madness here, so to speak. Most of the groups are broken into what's called emergency support functions, and each one of those groups is responsible for a specific planning element on how MEMA will respond to support the local jurisdictions.
Now, Ed, we understand that that the governor is about to talk with us also, I believe, from your... Have you guys now had an opportunity to brief the governor in terms of what's happening? What's been going on now there in the last 20 minutes or so?
Yes, absolutely. Our Director Muth and our Deputy Directors have met with the Governor quite frequently throughout the evening, keeping him abreast. The Governor's also been very engaged in terms of moving around to the various support function groups and our Joint Information Center, getting a feel for what's taking place and getting a firm grip on what's happening around the state, very well informed. So he is up to speed on everything we're doing, and yes, he is going to have a briefing quite shortly.
What is your biggest concern as the storm quickly encroaches upon us here?
Well, if you had asked me a couple hours ago, I would have said complacency, and I think that people have now saw that this storm really is as dangerous as we were predicting it was going to be. I think our biggest concern is that people are going to try to venture out, maybe take a look firsthand for what the storm may be, maybe use social media to capture pictures and so forth, and many, we think that's absolutely the wrong thing that they need to do. They really need to stay inside tonight, pizza, a movie, and just make it a very relaxing evening and enjoy it inside. It's just absolutely going to be too dangerous to be on the streets tonight. It puts themselves at risk, and also if something happens to them, it puts the first responders at risk who are going to have to rescue them.
And I'm glad you made that point, because earlier in the week, you know, we sometimes encourage people under normal circumstances to send us pictures, but we said, please, under no circumstances, do not go out into the storm, because you put yourself in jeopardy. And as you mentioned, the emergency responders, it's just not fair to put our emergency responders in jeopardy as well, just to get a picture.
No, absolutely, Rod. You're absolutely correct. I mean, we can appreciate that people want to get the pictures, but what they don't think about are the unknown risks. For example, when you had Jane on a short while ago down at Fells Point, if you had flowing water over that street, you don't know if a manhole cover is there or if the flooded waters have removed the manhole cover. And if someone were to fall in that, quite frankly, it would be a fatal injury, because there would be no recovery once they would be dropped down into the storm drains. So, yeah, clearly, while we understand the desire to want to go out and take the pictures, please stay inside.
Ed, we had a couple of knuckleheads, I have to say, in Easton who were throwing a football. Had one of them fallen and cracked their head, it would have been a really serious situation.
Absolutely, because when you're looking at an injury like that, you're thinking potentially there's going to be advanced trauma. You're going to have a medevac for a flight to shock trauma. All that's not going to take place in terms of going to a trauma facility like that from suffering that kind of injury, because weather's going to prohibit that kind of flight. So again, people aren't just thinking. There's got to be a common sense application here when they're out in the storm.
Was planning for Irene any different than planning for previous hurricanes?
Actually, Minnie, we take planning from an all hazards perspective, which means we look at every potential hazard that can impact Maryland and plan accordingly. So in terms of planning for Irene, we have a tropical cyclone checklist that we run through the minute any part of the 5-day weather cone, or rather the hurricane cone, touches on Maryland. But planning really is no different. We look at evacuation routes that would, the same evacuation routes that would impact us for a snowstorm, for example, would be usable for a hurricane. So there's a lot of duplication, but we also have to look, every time we look at a plan, we also have to look what are the pitfalls of it as well. So a lot of planning goes in. This is something we do day in, day out. And also, one thing that people don't think about, we do a lot of exercise and training. So what you see going on behind me, as far as well as the engagement of people at the local jurisdictional level, we do exercise. We actually plot these scenarios and create situations where we have to respond just like we're responding now. And I always live by the old adage that in times of stress, you revert back to your training. So when we're stressed, you drop right back into a training mode and everything comes naturally.
Hey,
Good
Ed,
advice.
I know that you guys have worked a lot on preparation and training. What do you do at this point now? Looking forward, it's 9:30 p.m. What are you guys projecting will happen, will be your role in the next hour, hour and a half, 2 hours or so when this thing, really hits us?
That's a really great question, because what people don't think about now, while we understand the storm's coming, we're actually now focused on recovery. We want to take a look at what is it we're going to need to do once this storm passes and the sun comes out tomorrow. Hopefully it does. But when it comes out tomorrow, then what do we do to move in and help these communities and jurisdictions recover? So certainly we're going to be watching the storm tonight and certainly monitoring what the local jurisdictions will need to support them. But equally as important, we'll have a team in place to look at what are we going to do over the next 3, 4, 5 days, maybe several weeks, depending on the damage we incur, on how we're going to plan to work for that. So we're looking at two specific plans there. One, to watch the storm tonight, and two, how are we going to recover from it?
And our viewers can't say it to you, but we want to thank you guys for being there, helping to look at these things that we really don't have time, quite frankly, ourselves to be. We have to worry about our friends and our family and our pets and so forth. But thank you to all of the men and women there at MEMA who are helping to help keep us safe as well.
Rod, I appreciate that. It's our job to keep Maryland safe, and that's what we want to do. And hopefully by what we do tonight, people can go out tomorrow and have a great day and enjoy the sunshine when it shows up tomorrow.
All right, Ed Hopkins, thank you so much for joining us.